Hey Cafe crew, it's Connor Smith here from Photoshop Cafe, and today I'm really excited to be talking to you about the upcoming solar eclipse on August the 21st. Full solar eclipse. You're sitting there during the day, and then suddenly the moon comes across, blackens the sky, and you basically see a black hole in the middle of the sky with a glow around it. Imagine how people felt years ago, before they knew what was happening. They thought the world was ending. They thought the sun had gone out. Places like China, they were shooting flaming arrows at the sun, trying to relight it. Different places were lighting fires and doing different ceremonies. People were terrified. They thought the world was over. They didn't know if the sun was going to come back on. But now that we do know what a solar eclipse is, it doesn't make it any less exciting. Imagine this. You're just sitting there. Suddenly it goes dark. Plants close up. Birds land. Animals go to sleep. In the sky, you can see the night sky during the day. You can see the stars brightly. You can see planets even. The temperature's going to drop 15 or 20 degrees. Because of the change, winds can happen. Different things can happen. The people around you, some people are going to be screaming with excitement, and some people are going to be moved to tears. Some people are just going to be silent with their jaws open. It's an incredible event, and it's coming on August the 21st to a big part of the Northern Hemisphere and totality in the United States. So this video, I'm going to talk to you about what is the eclipse and what are the safe ways to view it, what are the safe ways to photograph it, and what are my plans for this eclipse? It's one of the most exciting natural events that can happen. And if you're lucky enough to be on the path of totality, then you're going to be able to see this full eclipse. But here's the thing, even if you're not, the entire United States, Canada, Alaska and Hawaii and some other parts of the world are going to get a partial eclipse. And this is actually going to be the first time since 1979 that we've had a full solar eclipse in the United States. And it's actually the first time since around about the year 1200 that it's been only in the United States as far as the full eclipse, the full path. Now, the path of the eclipse is going to be about 70 miles wide, and it's going to pass at a speed between 1,500 to about 2,400 miles per hour. And it's going to last approximately 4 hours in the United States. It's going to start in Oregon at about 9 a.m., in fact, 6 a.m., the total eclipse, and it's going to go through these different states, and then it's going to end 4 hours later in Southern Carolina. So the states in between, and I'll list those states, are going to be able to see the full eclipse. Now, here's the thing. For the first time in history, we have 8.4 million people live on totality, are actually going to be in that 70-mile wide strip. And there's another 88 million people live within a day's driving distance. So it's going to be crazy. So whether you see a partial eclipse or you see the full eclipse, for me, I'm going to be traveling to the full eclipse, but more about that in a little bit. So it's going to be a pretty exciting event. Now, one of the things is, you want to view it safely. And here's the thing. These are not going to cut it. Like your regular sunglasses, no. Don't use these. Don't use 3D glasses, smoke glass, or any of those things. What you need to do is get approved solar viewing glasses like these ones here that I've got. And let me put these on. And right now I can see absolutely nothing, which is good. That's what you want. The proper solar glasses, you'll see nothing except for the sun. And this is the only safe way to view the sun during a partial eclipse. So if you're not on totality, you're going to be wearing these glasses the entire time. Of course, the other ways, you can make a pinhole camera, where you can just take a piece of cardboard or something like that, take a pin, make a hole in it, and then hold it up to the sun, and then you can see the reflection on the ground, or you see the projection. Also, if you go under a tree, you're going to see the projection as that moon starts to go across the sun. So a solar eclipse is basically when the moon comes between the sun and the earth, and it blocks out the light. Now, the penumbra is what's going to create the partial eclipse, where you're going to see actual bites being taken out of the sun as the moon goes across it. Now, the umbra is the shadow from the total eclipse, where it'll be pitch black. And once again, that's only 70 miles wide. So when you're viewing it, once again, make sure you're viewing it through the proper glasses. And when it becomes a full total eclipse, which is going to last about 2 minutes, it's about 2 minutes and 24 seconds where I'm going to be going. And you can take these glasses off only once that diamond ring is finished. So these are the parts of the eclipse. You're going to see the sun. And then there's 4 stages known as C1, 2, 3, and 4. At C1 is when the moon starts to take a bite out of the sun, and it's going to become a crescent. And it's going to slowly pass across. And then what's known as C2 is when it completely begins to completely eclipse it, where you'll see the corona around it. But right before that, you're going to see a thing known as the diamond ring, which is going to be, it's going to look like a little ring of fire going around it, and then a bright glow of the sun on the edge. And then you might see Bailey's beads, which are just like little spots of light kind of just sleeping through right before it hits totality. Then at totality, it's safe to take these glasses off and look at it with the naked eye. Then at C3, which is when those Bailey's beads begin to appear again and that diamond ring, you want to get these glasses back on. Don't continue to look. And here's the danger about looking at the sun, and I just really want to stress this. Do not look directly at the sun, even for a moment, because what can happen is you can become blinded, temporarily or permanently. So, this is not something to be joked around with, or, to think that, why, oh no, I'm okay. No, do not look even at a partial eclipse at any time with the naked eye. Only look at it with the naked eye if you are in totality, and only during that time of the complete eclipse. As soon as that light starts to appear, immediately, don't wait. Get these glasses back on immediately and do not look at the sun again. So here's the thing about that. There's no pain receptors in your eyes. So if it does start to burn, you're not going to feel anything. And you might not even see the results right away from what they call eclipse blindness. Eclipse blindness can actually take till the next day for it to have an effect on you. So the thing is, it's going to burn out your retinas, and you just don't want to have that happen. So, we don't want anybody blinded. So take those safety precautions. All right, so as much as you need to wear these glasses, and you'll probably see those little paper and cardboard glasses that you can get very, very cheaply. Even NASA's handing them out in some state parks and national parks. They're going to have some there too for viewing. So I encourage you to get some. Now, here's the thing, be very careful. There's a lot of counterfeit ones on the market. I know horrible people that would do that. They should be prosecuted to the most extreme degree, but we won't go there. So here's the thing. If you're going to be getting these solar glasses and you're going to be using them to look at the sun, make sure you get a reputable brand, and I'll link in the bottom to a list there that's kept of ones that have been tested. And also, don't just go on Amazon and buy them off some unknown vendor. Make sure you buy them from a reputable vendor, somebody like B&H or Adorama, or somebody, NASA, somebody that you know and you trust, and get them from there. And you'll see there's an ISO compliance for those glasses. So be very, very careful about that. Now let's talk about, viewing and shooting with things like cameras. You might be using binoculars or telescopes for viewing them. Make sure you use the proper filters for those, as much as you need to use the filters for your eyes. And also be very careful with these. You don't want to scratch or anyway damage the film, which is why I'm putting these carefully back in that nice little safe bag. Okay, so the filters you want, there's several different types of filters available. One of them are these silver filters here that you'll see. And these are great. You want to put these over the end of your telescope, your binoculars, or your lens on your camera. And we'll talk about my gear in a second here. Now, make sure if there's a back filter, you do not put it on the back filter. Put it on the front filter only to cover the entire lens. Now, these are great. These will block it. And you'll notice with these type of filters too, the surface is not necessarily smooth on these films. And that's fine. They don't have to be, they can kind of look a little wrinkled or whatever, as long as there's no creases in there. But this is actually designed so that it doesn't create reflections. So anyway, so we've got that there. There's a different type here. These ones here are made by Seymour Solar, and also Thousand Oaks make these. And you'll see this is a film. This is a kind of a darker film that will go over the end of the camera, and these are the ones that go over the lens. And these can be great because you put them over the lens, and then you've got a little screw here that you can tighten. There we go. And that'll get these over the lens nice and safely. And the good thing about these is you can loosen it, you can pop them off very, very quickly during totality, because you don't want to have these filters on during totality. Then as soon as that light starts to come back, pop them back on, tighten them down, and leave them on for shooting partial eclipse. Once again, if you're shooting a partial eclipse, only use a filter, an approved filter. Now I want you to look those up and make sure that the filters you're getting are proper solar filters. Now the other one we have here is from Format High Tech. They've got these Eclipse filters. These are 18 stop ND filters with an IR cut on there, so it cuts out the infrared. This is a very, very dark lens, and if you look through it, you'll see nothing. It just looks black unless you look at the sun. But do not view the sun through these filters with your eyes. We really don't want anybody injured. It's just something you don't want to do. So, okay, so let's talk about that. So when you put these filters over, make sure you put the filters over the lens before you point the lens at the sun. And then the thing you want to do is on the back of the camera, do not look through the viewfinder under any conditions. Because if that filter, you don't have the right filter on it, the filter falls off, or whatever, just do not risk it. Because if you're looking through that viewfinder, through that long lens that's magnified, you're instantly blind. Do not mess with it. So one of the things you'll find on the Canon camera, you see these little rubber things here? Well, these are eye cups. The little thing on the back there, remove that, and then you can slide this over the back and just block that viewfinder entirely. Or take some tape, take some gaff tape, black tape, and just tape it up. Don't be tempted to look through there or even accidentally glimpse at it. So what you want to do is go into live view on the back and look through there. Or if you're using a Micro Four Thirds camera, or you're using any camera that has an electronic viewfinder, it's safe to look at that viewfinder. You're going to be fine because it's not going to get any brighter than what that screen to display, so it's not going to harm your eyes. But if you're using an SLR camera, do not look through that viewfinder. If you don't have an electronic viewfinder, what you can do is hold a piece of paper underneath the piece of white paper behind it, and then look at it there, and then focus by looking on the paper. Never look through that lens. Never look through that viewfinder. All right, so I'm going to be shooting with the Canon 5D Mark III with the 400mm with the 2x extender. It's going to give me an effective shooting of 800 millimeters, which is going to be pretty decent for what I'm looking for. Okay, so one of the things that's going to be quite important is to lock it down on a good tripod. Even though you could do this handheld, locking it down is actually going to enable you to keep it in view and keep it in frame. You'll find it takes a little bit of practice with the filters on there to find the sun when you're looking through your electronic viewfinder or through your live view there. But once you do, lock it down on a good solid tripod, weigh it down, put some sandbag stuff on there, make sure that this thing is just going to be nice and stable and not move. Nice, good, stable shooting platform. And also I have a ball head here. This is an Acrotech. And when I loosen this off, it enables me to move my camera around freely. And so I've got the quick release plate on here, and you'll notice that I've got my camera on there mounted by the lens. There's a lens mount on there, and also if you want to go from vertical to horizontal, you just loosen that, turn the camera like that on that collar there. So another thing you need is some kind of remote shutter, because if you just touch this at this kind of magnification, it's going to wobble, it's going to move around, and it's going to mess up the shot, causing camera shake. So if you use a remote like this, you can just kind of plug it in, and then you can click it. One of the great things about this particular one is it enables me to do time lapse. So I'm going to set a period and take a photograph every minute or so during the partial eclipse. Now when I go to the full eclipse, I'm actually going to take that solar filter off, and then I'm going to be doing brackets. I'm going to be doing the maximum this camera allows me, which is 7-shot brackets, and that way I can get the corona as well as the sky and get as much dynamic range as I can, and then I'll put those together. Later on, I'll stack those in Photoshop to bring out the full dynamic range of that scene. Then, as soon as the diamond rings appear and the totality is over, put that filter back on, and then I'm going to stop bracketing and just go back to taking the regular time lapse again to just get nice little intervals. So here's the thing, if you don't have one of these, you can get even a wireless remote. You can get one which for like 20 bucks, and you can use that, because if you just touch this, it's gonna just shake the camera and you're really not gonna get the shots that you want. Okay, let's talk about camera settings. During partial and during total are going to be very different. During partial is actually the same as what you get during the day. So you can go out and you can practice in regular sunlight. And so you want to set your ISO low. I'm going to turn this all the way down to 100. And then your settings are going to depend a lot on what filters you're using over the front, because that's really going to affect it a lot. I've been finding with some of the filters, shooting with this filter, for example, I'm using about an f5.6 or even up all the way up to an f11, because you don't need a shallow depth of field. And when I'm shooting there, I'm using somewhere between 250 and 1/1000th of a second. I'm finding is getting me good exposures. So you can actually shoot pretty quick because it's very, very bright. Even though you've got the dark filter, you're actually going to be shooting fast. And the other thing is, once you go into totality and you take that filter off, your settings are going to change. You might want to boost that ISO up a bit. You might find it's a little bit like shooting a full moon. And so you're going to be wanting to shoot a little bit slower. I still want to try and keep that shutter speed above 1/125th if I can, and then just kind of play around with your ISO to get you the right exposure. You don't want it where it's blowing out and you're losing all the detail. You want it where you're getting some detail, once again, which is why I'm going to be bracketing, shooting from dark up to light to make sure that I get the shot. Now, once again, this is something you want to practice. Practice shooting the moon, practice shooting the sun every single day between now and the eclipse. So when you get there, this is going to become second nature. You're not going to be thinking about your gear. Get used to your gear. And another thing about your gear too is get used to working in the dark, because when you go into totality, you're going to be making these adjustments. You're not going to be in sunlight anymore. You're not going to be able to see the settings. Know where all the settings are, where your shutter speed, your ISO, and where your aperture settings are. Know those by hand. If you're going to be going bracketing, know how to do that quickly. So practice doing that over and over again. Do drills between now and then, because when that totality hits, you've only got a couple of minutes, and you don't want to waste those couple of minutes looking around, fiddling around with your camera, trying to figure out how it works. That is not the time to do it. Now's the time to do it. Get ready. Because here's the thing. When totality happens, you want to be able to do the least amount you possibly can. Yes, you want to get those shots, but don't miss the moment. And I really want to emphasize this, and this is something I'm going to be really aware of going into this. I've got a lot of things to do. I might be shooting a couple of cameras. I might be shooting video. But the thing is, if it comes down to it, I'm just going to shut it all off if it gets in the way of me enjoying the moment. Because as much as you want to get all these pictures, the most important thing is enjoy the moment. Take it in. Look around. Experience it. You know, I don't want to just be experiencing this through the back of a camera. I want to experience it in person. So whatever you do, make sure that you just take a moment, breathe, enjoy the eclipse. See, one of the things is that the sun is constantly moving. So even though you sit there and you frame it, it's not going to stay in frame the whole time. You're going to have to continually move and adjust your camera. So you might have noticed I have this box on here, and this is a tracker. What it does is it enables the camera to automatically follow and track the sun, so I don't have to keep reframing it all the time. This is an Ioptron Sky Tracker Pro. And so basically how it works is I point this north and I align it with Polaris. And then once I do that, because the Polaris is actually the North Star and that's constant and everything else moves around it. So by doing that, what it does is that gives it an alignment point, and then there's a motor inside which very, very, very slowly moves it, and it has a sun setting. So I set it so we'll move it to the speed of the sun. Now the little bit of a challenge I had was, well, how do I line this up with Polaris during the daytime? Because if you actually look on here, there's a scope. I can actually take this off and look through there, and at nighttime I can align this with Polaris. But During the day, obviously you can't see it, and also you don't want to be looking through that scope at the sun. Very, very bad idea. So I had to kind of figure this out, and I had a friend from B&H actually provided the answer to that, because the instructions that come with this are pretty bad. So anyway, so what you need to do is you need to align it with true north. So you need a compass. Don't use the one on the phone. Get a real compass. They're not that expensive, but they're a lot more accurate. And then with this compass, you find north, and then you set it up, and you point this north. Now, here's the thing. Magnetic north and true north are not quite the same. So you have to go to the NOAA site, and I'll put a link down there, where you can go and you can find a degradation amount, which is the difference between magnetic and true north from where you are. Then you just adjust it by those few degrees, point this in exactly the right direction. Now you're pointing at Polaris, or you're pointing to true north, or the North Star. So the only thing is you can't tell how high it is. Okay, so there's an app on there. So I downloaded the app called Polarscope, and that's from iOtron, and that shows you where Polaris is. And this is useful for doing the scope. But one of the things it does on here is it gives you the angle. So you can actually take that angle, and you see on there, there's markings on there, so I can actually point it at the right angle. So now I've got this head pointing exactly where it should be. Then at that point, what I do is I take the camera, move it around, frame it with the sun, and then just turn this on, and now this will track the sun and keep it in the center. All right, and you'll also notice on the bottom here, there's a counterweight. And what this counterweight does is it enables me to keep this balanced with this heavy camera and lens. And it also allows for a smoother motion with better balance on there. So, so this has a sun setting. So if you are using a tracker, make sure it has a sun setting, and it will actually move at the speed of the sun. Now, of course, you don't need to have this. You can just use a regular tripod and just readjust it from time to time. But there's one other little bit of gear here I wanted to mention here is a Sharpie, a black Sharpie. Why do I have this? Because when you're using these solar filters, not the glass ones, but if you're using the film ones, you've got to check these, hold them up to the light, and make sure there's no scratches or little pinholes in there, because that can sometimes happen. Now, if a pinhole appears in there, just take a black Sharpie and just dab it. Believe it or not, that's all you need to do. Now, when you're looking for those pinholes, don't go straight up to the sun and start looking in there. Just look at the sky, and you should be able to see those quite fine. And always check these filters before you use them each time. So for me, this Eclipse is a once-in-a-lifetime event. I'm so excited about it that I decided to just go all out and get in the path of totality. So what I'm doing is I'm actually going to be flying up to Casper, Wyoming, and I'm going to be heading up there for a few days and going to find my spot, and then I'm going to be shooting the eclipse there. Now, to give you an idea of the madness of travel, here's the thing. I booked my ticket many, many months ago. Pretty much all the flights are going to be sold out right now. Hotels are completely sold out along the path of totality. There's going to be millions of people traveling there. To give you an idea, Casper, Wyoming, the population is expected to more than double over the weekend coming up to the eclipse. There's going to be a lot of madness, a lot of excitement and events. The Astronomical Society, our Astronomical League are having their convention there, Astrocon. And then, there's just going to be so many other people. There's going to be the Wyoming Eclipse Festival is going to be on. There's going to be a lot of exciting events. Every city along the path of totality are going to be having exciting events and festivals and things like that. National parks, state parks. It's going to be a big event. It's going to be really, really exciting. And if you can get in the path of totality, I would absolutely urge you to do it. Now, let me give you a little thing. If you're traveling, give yourself a lot of extra time, because there's going to be millions of people on the road, and there's going to be a lot of people. You're not going to be viewing the eclipse alone. There's going to be a lot of people around you. Now, to give you an idea of the madness, the Casper airport, generally speaking, is about 4 flights a day come into Casper. On the day of the eclipse, they said there's going to be a plane landing every 2 minutes. So it's just going to be madness. There's going to be, thousands of people coming in. There's going to be small planes coming in. Some of them are just going to come in, land, and view the eclipse. In fact, they're going to have a viewing area on the runway where the people don't even have to go through security. They're literally going to land their planes, watch the eclipse, get back in their planes and leave. So it's going to be that much madness. Now, I plan to be kicking around town. I'm going to be vlogging. I'm going to be taking my camera with me, and I'm going to be capturing this whole event. I'm going to capture myself shooting the eclipse, as well as the madness and the excitement around this eclipse. I'm going to be interviewing different people. I'm going to find some very, very intelligent people, that know a lot about science and photography and the stars and planets and stuff like that. We're going to talk to those people. And I'm also going to be looking for some interesting people, the type of people with tinfoil hats and, alien goggles and, the whole thing. So I'm going to be finding some very colorful characters if I can. I think it's going to be a really exciting time, and it's going to make a super fun and exciting video. So anyway, guys, that's my plan for the eclipse. What's your plan? Add a comment. Let me know. Make sure, though, first and foremost, that you stay safe. Make sure you protect, first and foremost, your eyes more than anything. Then after that, protect your gear, and then go out, have a good time, shoot some great things on the eclipse. If you like this, hit the subscribe button, become part of the Cafe crew, add a comment, smash that like button into dust, and until next time, I'll see you in the shadow.